I got some.
I'm on the phone going,
Maybe we just stop this conversation.
It is dangerous with dark chocolate, let me tell you what.
All right. On that note.
All right. I think we're there.
Adjustments.
Sure the phone's off.
Oh, yes, I should do that.
Timer. Okay, welcome to the September 18th, 2023 regular meeting of the Lyman Board of Selectmen. This is a public proceeding and is being recorded. Would you all please join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to jump right to item 2. We'll start off with public input. Public in attendance will have up to 5 minutes to address the board. Please use the podium if you would like to do so. That would be the time. Oh, I probably should have said it. Hands up first.
Carrie Jo Sampson, 44 Reagan Lynn Road. On the agenda that came out today, item 7D said appoint warden for special town meeting. Just wanted to remind you that a warden is for state and federal elections. It's a moderator for municipal. It's main statute 30A 2524 to look up the reference. It's elected at the meeting and then by written ballot and then sworn in there and then the meeting is started. I just wanted to add, I sincerely hope you don't see these inputs as personal. It's not a gotcha or an aha moment. The town, staff, the board, you serve your community by serving on the board. We, the people in the gallery, the community, serve by bringing this information to you that we think is relevant. So I just hope that you know that. That's not personal. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So,
Michelle Felicetti, Red Brook Drive. I know it's a hot topic, is the Kennebuck Pond Gate. So I was thinking about this, and I understand the whole dawn to dusk, and that's a great idea. And the one thing I was thinking about is the funds were already set aside for ARPA for the gate. And with technology, knowing the way it changes and trying to do things after the fact, I would just think, I know the board has final say, but maybe look at a gate that has the abilities already in it. So you're not looking to try to stick stuff in there later that may not be available in 2 years. And then the gate that you bought is obsolete, because that happens all the time with technology. I meant to stop, there's 3 parking garages near me in Portland that have kind of like what you'd be looking for. And they have 1-800 numbers to call them on it. I just didn't have time to take screenshots. Had a busy week. I will get those to you, but just as a thought, as you go forward and you are looking at a gate, it doesn't have to be functional with us, but I already have it in there. So when you do choose to do pay or cards or codes or whatever you're going to do, it's already in there. Technology changes too fast, and you might be buying a gate that can't be upgraded in a couple of years. So just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Hi, Sue Briggs, Briggs Way, Lyman. First of all, I want to thank everybody who wrote me in for the budget committee out there in Never Never Land. But I have concerns about the ballot. First of all, there is no total ballot count that could be conceived from the ballot tally sheet. I went back and I looked at the last previous voting that Lyman did. And it's pretty clear that there were 383 total ballots when we voted for select board members, school board members, and there were also lists of write-ins, so that because there were multiple write-ins, so that one could deduce a final ballot count. When I look at the moderator certificate of results, I have 83 for the one-year term budget committee with pick 2. I have 41 for the 2-year budget committee write-in, and I have 42 budget committee 3-year write-in. Those do not include the blanks. In other words, somebody cast a ballot and didn't write anything in. It was blank. Normally, and if you looked at the June election, you would take, if there were more than one box that you could check, you would take the total of the votes from each person, and then you would add those up. You would add any write-ins, you would add any scattered write-ins if there were, and you would add the blank ballots together. If you were to do this, and then you would divide by 2, and that would equal the ballot count. If you read this, it says that we had 83 total votes. If you count them and add them up, it comes out to 96. If you divide that by 2, you have 48 ballots. Now, I questioned the moderator of this election, how many ballots did we have? She doesn't know. When you go on to the 2-year term, which I was elected to, I got 19 votes. There were 22 scattered write-in votes. There were 20 blanks. That totals 61. If you go to the 3-year term, Bill got 28. There were scattered write-ins of 14. There were 24 blanks. That adds up to 66. There's no way on this sheet to understand how many ballots were cast. And I understand that the ballots must be sealed for a certain period of time, which is, I believe, is 5 days. Today is the 5th day. Those can be unsealed at this point, and a proper count and a proper sheet can be resubmitted and not published with this sheet. And also all the write-in votes, because it looks like there were 8 votes under the 1 year, 22 under the 2 year, and 14, which is more than enough. Usually there's 1 or 2 write-ins and then you don't need the list. But you really do need a list for this. And honestly, I appreciate that I was elected. I will serve this town as best that I can and use my knowledge of bookkeeping and whatever and budgeting. But I'd like to know that I won fairly that the number was right and the number of ballots cast is publicly demonstrated. And I think we all deserve that. Thank you.
Address. Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road. We've got another election coming up on November 7th, statewide election. There'll be 8 questions posed to the voters. They range from a limitation on state borrowing, a prohibition on campaign contributions from foreign entities, the creation of a publicly owned utility, a proposed right to repair law, a proposed change for the period for judicial review for state petitions, the restoration of language dealing with Native Americans into official printed versions of the state constitution, and 2 proposals to amend the state constitution so that they conform to recent federal court rulings. One would remove the requirement that an initiative petition signature gatherer must be a resident and a registered voter in Maine. The other would provide that individuals under a guardianship for reasons of mental illness can still vote for governor, state senators, and state representatives. As we all know, turnout for referenda tends to be low. I conjecture in part because of the seeming complexity of the questions. So what I would suggest as a public service announcement, that folks take a look at a non-partisan, nonprofit website out there called Ballotpedia, BALLOTPEDIA, for balanced, clear information on all 8 of these questions. You can get there by going to Googling Ballotpedia and fire in Maine 2023 ballot measures should get you there. They also provide during election years where there are candidates running, unbiased and clear information on the folks running for national and state election. Another good website along with Ballotpedia is VoteSmart. They do this test that candidates either can or cannot fill out that puts them on record for all sorts of issues. And again, it's another nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, Ballotpedia, for the upcoming election in particular. Now, some time ago, I mentioned a communication that came via email from Rebecca Graham of MMA dealing with the state reimbursements to municipalities for their work on anything dealing with the LD 2003. $5,000 max. Make sure that there's documentation as to the work that's done, reimbursement afterwards. Now, Thursday of last week, I received another email from Ms. Graham, which I assume all municipal officers and officials received as well. That provides an update to that program and with information dealing with the reimbursement to municipalities for the state tax stabilization program. And that was the law that, for a while, froze the property tax for senior citizens. Lasted 1 year, was repealed, and being someone over 65, it was nice while it lasted. But the reason why it got through is because the state assured municipalities that they would make up the difference. What Ms. Graham said in that email, provides in that email, is a link to the Maine Revenue Services website for further information, and also the form that needs to be filled out so the town can be reimbursed for that money, and a notification that that is due, the filing is due by November 1 of this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt?
We've done a lot. We haven't
That's
really-
like, it's not my turn.
He's the only one that didn't. do it.
Just love you guys. Love you. All right, moving on. So we know there's no more public input. Let's move on to item 3. Review and approve meeting minutes from 9/5/2023. Yeah, I'll copy that at the same time.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from our September 5th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
There.
Hello,
Oh,
I had a comment about the meeting.
that really should have happened during the public input portion of it.
Yeah.
We can move on. Okay.
I was misquoted. Just so the record.
All right, let's move on to item 4, payroll number 11, in the amount of $29,095.28.
I make a motion that we approve payroll warrant number 11 in the amount of $29,095.28.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, accounts payable warrant number 10 for year end 2024, in the amount of $59,633.16.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item number 5, review and approve contract for snow plowing at the town hall.
So last meeting, there was a discrepancy in the numbers that you found, and there was gonna be clarification.
Yeah, the numbers to put down to what was budgeted.
Okay, thank you.
So I make a motion to approve the snow plowing contract for town hall.
I second it.
Any discussion on that?
Bill, it's David Riley for $4,640.
Yep, correct.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, department and committee reports. Local, it's not here.
Eileen said she was gonna be here, but I guess it was just to bring up, because at the last meeting, somebody mentioned some issues with like garbage and stuff on property. She's actually been working on that for quite some time, so she's digging into a lot of information about that. Once she collects everything, I'm sure it will get to the board if we have to like do any remediation and stuff, but she hasn't concluded anything yet. So she's still working with code enforcement and state police, and she just wanted you guys to know that she's working on it.
Great.
Thank you.
Nice.
All right, no, thank you, Tom. Fire chief. Yeah, now's your time to speak.
I have nothing new from 2 weeks ago, but I'm just looking for your approval to spend the money out of the hydrant account to get the right-of-way on Barker's Pond Road surveyed. So we know where the right-of-way is and hopefully who owns it before we move forward with putting a dry hydrant out there.
This is the same survey that we talked about, that there was a low number thrown out, not a really high number thrown out.
Yes.
Okay.
So originally I thought it was about $1,000, and then I think one meeting I was told $8,000. We've settled at about $3,000.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve spending not more than $3,000 for the survey of the right of way on Barker's Pond for the dry hydrant project.
I second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All that. Thanks, Matt. Oh, yeah, chief. Yeah, let's switch back. I should call you. Now I feel like a child.
You're not.
All right, all right, no CEO. There is a treasurer expense report included.
Yes.
So, Town manager, you have anything more?
Yeah, I just have a couple like really brief updates. Wanted to go over the ARPA projects, so the Kennybug Pond Beach and the transfer station. Contractors have got all their paperwork in that we need, so we can start looking into scheduling, and it looks like they're gonna be scheduling kind of soon. We probably will be having to close down things temporarily, so I'll be putting out public notice when that's gonna happen, so people are aware. It shouldn't be too detrimental, like the transfer station. There might be working on the Jersey barriers and stuff like that. So you can still bring your trash. You may not be able to do, bulky items like wood and metal and stuff like that. You may have to go to like Kennybunk or something for that. It should only be for about a week or so, or a couple of days. So they said they're going to be hopefully completing the project within like 2 weeks once they get it started, weather pending. Kennybunk Pond Beach, they'll start over on the beach side. They're going to leave the boat launch area open, so that's going to remain accessible. He'll do the beach side and then move over to the parking lot area when he's ready. And he says that'll take about 25 days or so. And then they will come back late spring next year to do the planting so the plants thrive and survive. That's kind of an update on that, unless, there's any severe weather that might impact the scheduling. So far, we're looking kind of good. We're hoping like early to mid-October should probably be seeing the project start, and hopefully they'll be done by early November. I did submit a grant proposal for the transfer station to receive funding for installation of security cameras and network recording systems. The results are pending as of right now, but if we receive the grant, so we can have access up to $3,000 to put security cameras and the network recording system up there. So that's out there. Lastly, I did just want to remind everyone, if anyone ever has any questions or needs information or anything, always feel free to contact me. You can call my office or stop by or email. I do hear a lot of stuff, out and about there. And I think, to streamline things, I'm here. I can help answer things. If I don't know the answer, I can help look for the answer. I know a lot of people come here and ask questions in public comment. You can always call my office. I'm, never turn anybody away. I think too, as the board, you guys might get stopped in public sometimes when you're out and about, and feel free to redirect them to town manager if they need, an answer or they want information about something. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move off of that, can I just point out, looking at the expense report, that and I feel like maybe if I keep bringing this up, people will be like, oh, let's recycle. The MSW for EcoMaine was $14,167.16. And recycling was $758.25. So there's a lot that could be put into the recycling that is going in the trash, so that like the MSW could come down. So just thought I'd point that out again.
Nice, I agree.
Keep bringing it up.
What does MSW stand for?
Yeah, municipal solid waste. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's literally the only one that I know. When you go to EcoMaine, they all talk in like these abbreviations that you're just like, oh wait, I better write that down. And I still haven't figured out a lot of them. So
All right, moving on. Review and approve planning board bylaws and mission statement.
I gotta tell you, I haven't had time to look at this.
Rusty?
Does the board have any questions about the adjustments that were made to the mission statement and bylaws? So I can address those.
I do, if,
Could you please?
okay. So in 1.4, under bias.
Yep.
The fourth paragraph, the board should review allegations of bias in executive session as described in section 10. I don't think that that is legal because that circumvents the FOA request.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that,
Okay. Well, that's what we had, that was unchanged from bylaws previously.
oh, okay. Well, I just, that's,
Just to encapsulate the adjustments, for the mission statement, the introductory paragraph previously was a bit clunky in terms of the verbiage, and that's been clarified. In the bylaws themselves, some adjustments were made to Article 2 to be in keeping with the Lyman zoning ordinance and with the new charter. In Article 9, a good portion of the language there was deleted and instead incorporated into what you'll find, I think, is attachment 3. I think Don Hernan has to get a whole lot of credit on this. What he did was painstakingly go through all the timelines that we had to deal with for the various activities that we conduct and put it onto a one page so it's right there, consistent and clear for everyone. Let me see. There was some adjustment to the opening remarks. The standard things that are done, the roll call, regular business, minutes, old business, are now specifically mentioned in the opening remarks for the planning board meetings. And in the opening remarks for public hearings, we deleted the language regarding executive sessions because we don't go into executive sessions in public hearings. And made just a minor adjustment to the remote participation policy, essentially saying that the public will be provided with a meaningful opportunity to attend via remote methods, period. Previously, a planning board member had to be absent before that could be offered, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we just deleted that sentence right there. And that's it. That's the only adjustments that we made.
2.5, when there is a permanent vacancy on the board, the chair shall request a motion to move the senior alternate to fill the vacancy, and the board shall vote on the same.
That's
The charter is the charter is the presiding document that says how vacancies are filled. So that's another.
I don't know if
issue for me.
the charter itself specifies that the board determines who will be in what position as either an alternate or a full voting member. I don't know if that's clear.
I think the
Well,
chart.
I'm just curious, with the language, is that just like when there's a temporary? So if someone called out sick and you didn't
No, it
have a
says-
quorum?
It says
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
permanent.
this is
Oh,
permanent.
permanent
So
vacancy.
Oh, permanent,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, the select board are the ones who appoint the planning board members.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
And then in 2.6, there's a reference, and I guess if you guys have done a lot of editing, maybe that's where it went, but there's a reference to LZO 8.2.5,
Mhm.
but I could not find an 8.2.
That's the Lyman zoning ordinance 2.5, 825.
So is that different than, because I thought
Let's
this
see.
was,
And that reads, a member of the board may be dismissed for just cause by municipal officers after notice in a hearing. And the municipal officer shall hold an executive session under the heading of a personal matter with the member. The member has the right to request a public hearing. As used in this section, just cause may include repeated absences, participation by a member in a matter in which the member has a financial interest, a member moving to another municipality, or any other reason determined by the municipal officers to interfere with the efficient operation of the board. That's what's referred to.
okay, no, that's my,
section.
I apologize, because
No.
I just went back and reread it, and I reread the
Okay.
first paragraph of this incorrectly, so that's why I thought that that was referring to something in here.
I have noticed a few things myself. I don't know if you guys want to go over them or.
Yeah, I think we should.
One of the things was the FOA that you mentioned, Amber. As far as I'm aware, FOA only authorizes the appointing board to hold executive sessions to discuss appointment duties, discipline, or of officials or employees that they appoint. So I think if someone's, stating a bias, I don't see how the planning board could hold an executive session. They should be communicating that in an open public meeting, and trying to rectify that bias or an appearance of a conflict of interest. So under 2.1, membership after recommendation from the board in accordance with LGO 8.2.3. I remember discussion from planning board members at an ORC meeting back in July 20th. They made a compelling argument that the charter supersedes the zoning ordinance, because there are some things now that kind of conflict with that a little bit. And so with the current charter, the town manager has to develop personnel policies, including recruiting and hiring process. And under the charter, under 5.2.1, vacancies on any board or committee shall be filled in accordance with the current hiring policy. So we've got an interim hiring policy that came to light because at a select board meeting, you guys had to appoint 3 out of 4 applicants, which was difficult. You guys spent probably about 40 minutes trying to figure that out. So you guys had asked about getting some sort of a policy in place for that. So I guess it's just kind of inconsistent with the current policies. Under 3.1 and 3.4, it says the planning board elects a secretary within their board and they handle minutes and notices and meetings. But I'm a little confused on that because we do have an employee who helps out with that. And then if you go to 5.1, it talks about what's called a planning board clerk. However, we don't have a planning board clerk in our office. So I think maybe that's what they refer to the admin CEO as, and that's fine, but the board doesn't have any authority. The planning board doesn't have any authority to create positions for employees. And it also says that the secretary of the planning board supervises the planning board clerk, which again, they're appointed as planning board members. So they don't have any authority to supervise employees or create positions or anything like that. I do think bylaws are for governing the board's conduct of their meetings. You really can't govern employees or other boards or members, public members that come to your meetings. So I think, the document should really stay with the conduct of the planning board meeting and how they're going to conduct their meetings and not really go outside of that. They don't have any purview over personnel policies or, they can't supersede the charter. A couple of questions also, like 6.2, the board may obtain goods and services, which the way I read it is I think you guys probably maybe consult with SNPDC or something like that. But again, there's procedure in the office of how we do that, which isn't really referenced in the bylaws. And I think it would be outside of the bylaws to change any policies or procedures around that. And then I was confused on meetings held at town office or another suitable meeting place, which isn't defined. So I would want to see that maybe clarified, because what is another suitable meeting place? Is that, your aunt's house? Is it, where is that? What is it? Can the public attend? So that might need some clarification. And then the notifications and minimum requirements, which I think are really super great. They had a nice little sample of like their notification requirements, 14 days or 7 days or whatnot, which is a great timeline to go by. But I just want to make sure the planning board understands, like, they're relying on employees to put postings on the web and whatnot. So I wouldn't want them to like make a request for posting, on the 15th day when there's a 14-day requirement, because that only gives that person 1 day to get all the postings out there. So just, I don't really see anything wrong with it. I just would want the planning board to understand, like, you may want to buffer that a little bit more so that people who are helping you with getting those postings out there have time to be able to do that and everyone can meet the requirements.
May I respond to those? First off, in terms of request for posting, they occur at our meetings, and with Julie Lemieux right there, it's handled the following day. So there's no situation where if there was a 14-day requirement, we wouldn't wait to the 13th day to ask for it. Usually we plan well in advance as well, so that say a site walk is consonant with the next meeting, maybe prior to, as will be the case this Wednesday coming up. We take a look at a proposed state motor vehicle inspection station that's been proposed to run Stallion Way.
And I'm not trying to say there is a situation with it. I just would want the planning board, I think it's great that it's in there. There's some timelines in there, and I think it's really helpful to have, but just, you might get new members or something or whatnot, but just for the board to be aware that.
Well, we conscientiously get the word out according to the schedule. As for another suitable meeting location, I think that is a reflection of the COVID period. There was one situation where we had a largely attended public hearing over at the fire station. I think it would be reasonable that we would not be scheduling anything at anyone's aunt's house. It would be at something that would be open to the public and suitable for the number of folks that we would expect to attend.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I didn't quite see that, but that's not just for you guys, but that might be something we want to define for the town, or what is a suitable meeting place? And maybe have a list, the fire station, the library, Rustic Dreams, or whatever, that just in general, I saw that, it's like, because, Aunt May's house might come up and somebody might think it's okay, but, and I'm not trying to be, doing something wrong, but, so just, it's not a bad point.
All right. As for the reference in 5.1 to the clerk, we do have an administrative assistant to the code enforcement officer, Julie Lemieux, who takes our minutes and does the paperwork for the board. And particularly for 2.1, I don't see conflict there. I see consonance between what is in the Lyman zoning ordinance and with the town charter. Ultimately, it is the appointment by the town manager with the concurrence of the select board as to who is on there. But just as the town charter was approved by the town, the Lyman zoning ordinance was approved by the town. And 8.2.3 specifically mentions vacancies on the board shall be filled by advertising for new members. The board shall review all applications and make a recommendation on the new members to the select board of selectmen, which has been the practice until recently. Opportunity for, as I think I mentioned in a previous select board meeting, for a conversation between the candidate and the officers, officials. Good.
So I think you just said that in 5.1, when you were talking about the clerk, that the clerk does your minutes, or your administrative assistant does your minutes?
Yes.
So in 3.4, where it says the secretary does the minutes?
Ultimately responsible for that's in the event of an absence, the secretary would take the minutes. in the event of the absence of the administrative clerk.
You spend a lot of time on, and it said that Dawn had spent a lot of time on Article 9, the public hearings. I see the different print here.
Mhm.
Is that his change from the original? Is that,
Well-
it's a different font, not print, font?
Um,
I'm not seeing the old versus the changes.
Well, what was deleted, I'm sorry, the copy I have in front of me has the strike marks from what the original language was. And after the sentence that concludes date, time, and place of the hearing, and a general description of the subject matter, all those requirements were deleted. And instead, I've referred to attachment 3 for notification requirements, and you then go to the table to see what those are there.
Can we get a copy of that? Is that a one that you guys had,
Mhm.
that you were working on?
That was the draft that had the changes in there.
Was that sent to us?
I didn't get a copy of it.
Okay.
Yeah, we sent forward what we completed.
Excuse me?
We sent forward what was completed.
What got completed?
Right.
Can we get a copy of that?
Can't see why not.
I'm trying to think about you on your screen when you guys did that with the charter.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
I seriously-
Any further questions? Thank you.
I don't know if you, how you guys, I would like to take a look at the draft versus this. Because that caught my eye, it's just the font, I didn't see them. And then you guys get some other questions if we have to check it out.
Wouldn't be requesting a workshop to review both of them together, or
You can do that.
would you?
You want me to do that?
No.
Moving on to B.
I didn't have that many questions about it, and then listening to everyone
Yeah. moving on.
has raised some.
MMA membership committees and boards. We'll start with that.
So, but have we come to a conclusion what we want to do with this?
We're gonna table that at the moment. We're hoping we get copies of Joe's original cross out, right?
Yeah.
And then we
That
can
was my
compare
understanding.
apples to apples. There were a few items that were brought up. I guess we can check the legality of it.
Just let you know, it might be a little bit of delay for me getting to this to you because my copy's kind of scratched up. And the person who put this together was Don, so I asked him if he's got that handy and saved to distribute to you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
MMA thing, so Amber requested some discussion on this, and then I sent you guys whatever information I could find. I did ask MMA, they said they do have a policy, they don't take solicitations from citizens, so they kind of have like a list of anyone involved in the town, and then there, to my surprise, there's like a few people who have login credentials, which I give you guys a list, so I don't know what your thoughts were, Amber, but, or anybody else.
Well, I just, during public comment last meeting, there was mention that somebody was reaching out to MMA for something that was not what they should have been reaching out to MMA for. And I just think that going back to like when we were on charter, we weren't, the whole 9 of us weren't given access to MMA. It was 1 or 2, was it you and Rod maybe?
It was
And
me and Ron, we were only given access like to be able to like get into the backside and see all the documents. Like we didn't.
Yeah, we
Contact.
couldn't even contact them. So I just think it's that we pay for this membership for, you know, certain people to use it for what they're geared for. Like I would be using it as a select board member. I wouldn't be calling MMA for the library, even though I think the library does have access to it. So I just thought that it would be good to look at and maybe figure out who does have access to MMA. If there's a way that we can streamline it, if there is, you know, like the select board, we have one person that if I had a question for MMA, I would go to Lindsay and ask her. I would assume that each, you know, if the budget committee needed access, they don't have one person, they would probably go to Lindsay, you know. I think if, you know, we have 5 or 6 alternates, 7 maybe on the planning board, and they all have access, wouldn't it be better just to have one person having access, that all of the questions are funneled? I know when we were on charter, it was like 9 times out of 10, the questions that we were asking, we worked it out. We figured it out. You know, we got our phones out, looked at statute, and we figured it out. So that's why I asked for it to be brought up.
And Lindsay, you sent us a list, and I think you were still waiting on. Is that what you were still waiting on some names?
I got 2 different lists. I got one list, which is like who's who in the town. So
Yep.
who's your planning board, who's your budget committee, and all that. And then I got a different list that was who had login credentials.
Right.
So 1, 2, 3, there's 7 people who have login credentials, and 3 of them are employees of the town. 2 of them are planning board members. There's the chief and Amber.
Yeah, and I only did that because you said that I could sign up for my workshop through there, which then I ended up, I couldn't
Okay.
sign up through there, so
So,
I had to go back to you.
I haven't got clarification from MMA, like what's the difference between like their list of who's who? I don't know if that's just, you know, if you're gonna call and say, I'm so-and-so on the budget committee, do they refer to the list and go, yep, that's Michelle on the budget committee, you know? Because I do know, like, I've had experience with MMA where we've had in another municipality, people would call and ask repetitive questions, and MMA gets kind of frustrated with that because it bogs down their legal team or bogs down their office, and they will send the municipality and say, look, you need to sort this out or we're going to cancel your membership. And so in how we dealt with that was we had like a liaison from each committee, or it might have been an employee that works with that committee.
Mm-hmm.
One person would be that contact for MMA, so that we're not calling them and asking them, you know, the same question, and then
Over
Amber
and
calls
over
and
again.
then somebody else calls,
Yep.
because they do get frustrated with that. Yeah.
Well, it's important to do a review anyway, because if I wasn't on the board, but I was on charter, then I shouldn't have it anymore,
Mhm.
kind of thing. So just check some.
Mhm.
Or it should be an annual.
Yeah. It
Update.
has to be, you know, I mean, they have like the admin CEO could help the planning board. You know, some of your other committees may have to have like one liaison or something unless they work with an employee that could help them, but.
Sounds like a good.
I just think
project
that I would be more than happy to take that on.
All in favor? Aye. All right, for everybody. Can't let that run away.
Well,
And then somehow put it on a list of things to do on an annual basis. Because if you have, you know, changeover and, you know, select board members and stuff, just make sure that's a checklist that, okay, we gotta take so-and-so off and add so-and-so, just so.
The
Yeah,
same
what you
time
were
as the
saying.
keys, the same time as the alarm
Exactly.
code, the same time as the computer, like a
Your
departure
filters
checklist, kind
and
of.
phone
Like,
calls.
well, yeah,
Mhm.
PMs.
Vicky had something.
Well, I think that MMA is a tool that, if I remember correctly, 10 years ago, it was a good tool to have so that we weren't draining our budget for the town attorney with questions and whatnot. You bring up a valid point, I think. in this case, I mean, some people know their way around. They're not gonna be redundant about it. They're not gonna misuse it. I just wanna make sure this isn't a knee-jerk reaction because you don't like that somebody did something. As far as asking a question, someone who, has been serving our town well for many years. I don't want it to be that kind of a thing, where it's payback because somebody did something you don't like.
I don't think it is.
Right.
I think it just brought it to the surface that we need
Okay.
to take a look at it as a,
And I don't disagree with that. That's
Yeah.
not my whole point. I just want to make sure that we don't restrict it so much that we're actually taking things away from, it is a handy tool to have. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't belong to it.
because I remember the days that you guys were asking from the charter, and we talked a lot about that on who was gonna be able to call MMA for information and who, so there's a lot of thought
I think
brought
there's,
into it.
I think there's a lot of wisdom behind having one or two people per entity be able to use it. Because like she's talking about the redundancy of questions and whatnot, that,
Yeah, and
that's a really valid point.
using it for information and documentation, I mean, that goes to the board members, to get in that from information, and, I've called the attorneys up, I haven't done it in a long time. But, it takes them a long time to get back to you, and if they're flooded with, if we don't restrict it, if you will, we would get into problems that way. And Lord knows we don't want to have attorneys mad at us.
And not to punish anyone or anything too, but MMA does have the right to cancel the membership. So if we, unbeknownst, people are calling them or
Right.
whatever's happening, we don't know that's going on and they get frustrated and then it happens again, they just flip the switch and they can shut us off. So then we lose that tool. And I wouldn't want the town to be at risk of losing that because it is really useful. I use it a lot. I've used it a lot in other municipalities, and it does help offset that legal counsel cost because sometimes it's,
No.
you can get a
No, I
decent
agree.
answer from MMA.
And I can speak for myself since I'm the one that asked for it to be, it wasn't like a knee-jerk reaction. It was, for me, it was like, okay, MMA is something that our private citizens can't call up MMA and ask a question. So if our private citizens can't do that, why would we want our elected, appointed, whatever employees, why would we want them calling MMA, asking questions that deals with nothing to do with what their job is? That was,
Okay.
you know.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 7C, review approved warrant for special town meeting, October 3rd, 2023. We can read that.
I make a motion to accept the warrant article for the special town meeting on October 3rd.
I second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Like,
Nay.
wow, that's different.
How about that, huh?
How about that?
Just to go back real quick to the MMA 1B. So did you guys decide on Amber's gonna work on something or just for clarity so I understand? Right, is that?
I have no problem taking it
I threw
on.
under the bus and said, yeah, but.
I made the suggestion. Yeah,
All right, so we'll follow up with
to look at
Yeah.
a process and,
Okay, yeah, well,
We don't have a vote on that. All right, last one. Appoint warden for special town meeting October 3rd, 2023.
So I've asked Michelle Felicetti, Joe.
State change that, the moderator of the state. That word of the state.
No, Rick calls him the moderator.
Or he is.
So the moderator's elected at the town meeting. And then in talking with other town clerks and going through the MMA town meetings and elections manual, there's a warden. Basically, your job is to make sure people aren't unruly or, you know.
I'm sorry, that's not correct. It's
We
not a
can't
warden.
hear you. There is no warden for a town
Is it
meeting.
public comment right now or?
That's for state elections. It's in the,
Yeah,
So it's up to you guys. I went through some of the prior oath sheets and, you know, you've been warden before, but if you don't want to do a warden, then don't do a warden. We at least have a moderator, well, two ballot clerks to do counting and check in incoming voters.
I'm available if you need.
Okay.
She can tell me last minute, you don't need me, but if you want, I can do it if need be.
This is on Tuesday and we have a meeting that Monday, correct? So
Like-
let's look into this. And if we need to do it, then we'll do it.
I don't recall ever appointing a warden for a special town meeting or a town meeting for that matter. I do recall on a regular town meeting having a peace officer or a sheriff on site. I don't recall ever appointing a warden. I know we elect a moderator. But that's my 2 cents.
So we can look into it and I'll get more information. And go from there.
thank you.
Sure.
It's really not the end of the world.
Thank you.
No, it's not.
Well, if there was an appointment, it wouldn't need a time lapse like all the notices and
Right.
stuff, so I think you're right about.
Stickers?
You need a
Got
sticker?
one for
You
that?
need a sticker?
Thanks.
What do you want? Make it happen?
All right. let's sign our-
Can't have fun, why do it?
Shut up.
Don't,
No,
do
I
not
did it.
be late for this.
Should have a soccer game.
Are we gonna have other today?
Have another,
There's other on this.
and we can still do another.
Well, I wanted to tell you guys something, if I could.
I would love to hear it.
Sure.
Well, I operated unilaterally as a board member last week. Somebody dumped a bunch of stuff at the gate of the transfer station. And I called David Riley and I asked him if when he was going in, if he could take care of that, please. I mean, I didn't think I should have probably called every one of you first to ask you if that was all right, but I didn't. So I'm fessing up right here and now that I did that.
Wow.
And he said, yes, he would take care of it, and he did very quickly. So
That's too bad.
I don't know who did that, but I wouldn't want to make it, I didn't want it to stay out there because
No,
A, I didn't want animals in it, and B, I didn't want a lot of people driving by thinking what a great idea that is.
Yeah.
Wait for it to
Right.
be open, you know?
And who knows, Hurricane Lee was so powerful, that could have blown that stuff everywhere.
Do you know if we'll have a camera facing that entrance there so that in the future, if people decide to leave their trash at the entrance, we will know who they
We're
are?
gonna start out up by the shop, because I know years and years ago, there was a break in there. They, you know, do cash receiving, but that could be something that we look
Sounds
into.
like
Yeah.
Trips and balls.
Might be.
He was up at the shop.
If it happens, regularly, that it would,
I would have called Randy about it, but I didn't know how to get hold of him, and it was time. I have Dave's number, so that's why I called him.
Everybody knows Dave.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. He's a great guy.
And the other day, I went to the transfer station, and you'll like this, Amber. I was dropping off my recycling, and there was a gentleman there, an employee that I had never met before, and he didn't know who I was.
All those are the
And we
best.
were talking, and I want to tell you, he was very polite. It was a refreshing encounter that I had a few years ago. I had an experience where I went to throw in the recycling, and the whole bin that I was using went in with it, and a gentleman came flying over and was quite upset with me for throwing that in there. And, so it was very refreshing, this conversation I had.
I had a townsperson talk to me this weekend and said the same thing. The people up at the transfer station were very nice.
Mm.
It was a pleasant visit. They were helpful. Let's see, how many new employees do we have up there now?
3 or 4.
Do we have 4 new employees up there?
No, just two.
Oh, there's 2.
Oh.
Yeah, I think this was one of the two.
I don't remember that budget conversation.
Sorry. Thankless job.
Matt, did you fill your position?
No, not yet. We've advertised and the application deadline is September 20th.
Thanks.
Can't imagine the applicants. You must be, it must take a while just to fish through, figure out what's legit.
They are.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I don't think so,
Oh, no
yeah.
way, really? Oh,
No, he's in a business like mining certain requirements.
Yep. Yeah, can't be in
Oh, I don't think we should have signed that one.
Weird.
That was to appoint the warden. We shouldn't have signed that one.
oh,
Yeah, just shred it and then next meeting.
Too late now.
I didn't even notice that. Amber's very,
She's
she spots things.
I'll just fold it and put it in there. but-
She reads all that.
She uses it for her reading time credit at the library.
I know. I gotta bring that back. I can't wait until winter reading. I don't know. I have to ask Leela if we're doing that.
Is the agenda count for Joe?
We're very goal oriented over at the library.
In the middle of the second half right now. Soaking
That one. And then this one,
Yeah, I
I'm gonna go
told
back
her
to
I'll
Lindsay
just
to
fold it
shred.
and
You know,
She can have
I'm in the process, my team's trying.
There you go.
to-
Is that it? Make a motion, we adjourn?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay,
I'm trying to smooth all the teams.
yes,
Showing up there, but-
we are done.
but I think you for-
Thanks for coming out. Be safe on the way home.
Yeah.
Don't float away.
Stay dry.
It was raining so hard that 40 miles an hour was my speed.
I wondered that because I feel like I'm really like running.
Really?
Oh,
well, you-
why won't my car watch that?
Right,
You
as
just
a
wait,
parent,
you just wait.
How's your tires?
I was gonna ask parents.
Really
How do you
weird.
boss?
How's your tires?
How much you doing your kid?
Goodbye.
I don't
We're
know.
doing Volleyball.
Well, that's not a heavy car.
I can't imagine, 38 girls.
I can't imagine the Volkswagen weighs all that much.
No, the convertible was regular.
So she-
It's got a lot more.
Yeah, it's got a lot more meat.
But-
Another one in the,
Yeah, unscheduled for me.
yeah, I was ready.
I thought you, I thought it was her.
Oh,
I thought it
yeah,
was
well, I
just the
wasn't
three of us. I was
supposed
like, the 3 girls gonna be here tonight. That's it.
I wasn't supposed to be.
I didn't know that neither one of you were supposed to be here. I didn't know that means I'm next. I'd be like,
Well, I let her know Friday afternoon.
oh, no, she probably figured somewhere.
I'm sure she probably caught up.